New York City, one of the most expensive cities in the world, but what if I told you that you can experience 4 unforgettable days here for under $500? Yes, that's right, including food, accommodation, transport, and attractions. Are you ready? All right, let's go. Day 1. We're going to start our first morning off in the financial district, home to Wall Street and towering glass skyscrapers, but tucked amongst them is Leo's Bagels, a small no-frills bagel shop that feels like old New York. Inside, you'll see a busy counter with locals lined up before work, grabbing their bagel and a coffee to go. Order what New Yorkers call a classic, a bagel that's filled with all the toppings, along with a huge dollop of scallion cream cheese. Now, this bagel is a little crispy on the outside, it's chewy in the middle, and that cream cheese is rich, tangy, and loaded with fresh scallions. Pair it with a hot coffee for only $8, and you've just had a real New Yorker breakfast. Now, from breakfast, we're going to head to one of the most iconic bridges in the world, the Brooklyn Bridge. It's only a 15-minute walk away. This 140-year-old suspension bridge was once the longest in the world, linking Manhattan and Brooklyn across the East River. Its Gothic stone towers rise above the traffic below, and its crisscross of steel cables creates perfect frames for photography. Start at the Manhattan entrance near City Hall, and then walk toward Brooklyn. As you rise onto the wooden pedestrian walkway, the Manhattan skyline unfolds behind you. The Freedom Tower dominates the view, while the East River runs beneath. Once you've crossed over the bridge, be sure to check out this picturesque hidden gem, the neighborhood of Dumbo, or short for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. This is one of New York's trendiest spots. It used to be a warehouse district, but today it's full of art galleries, coffee shops, and design studios. The most famous photo spot is on Washington Street, where cobblestones lead your eye to the steel Manhattan Bridge, perfectly framing the Empire State Building in the distance. Walk a few minutes further to Pebble Beach, a small rocky waterfront with stunning views of both the Brooklyn and Manhattan. Here you could sit by the water, listen to the ferries passing, and watch as the city comes alive in the morning sun. After exploring the Dumbo area, take the metro, or of course the subway, from York Street to J Street Metro Tech, and only a 2-minute walk from here, you will find Xi'an Famous Food. Now this isn't your typical Chinese takeout. Xi'an specializes in hand-pulled noodles and dishes from the Shanxi province of China. Their signature is the spicy cumin lamb noodles. Ooh. These are wide, chewy noodles that are tossed with tender lamb, onions, and fiery chili oil. The food in here is phenomenal, and for under $15, it's one of the best value meals that you can get in New York City. From downtown Brooklyn, it's only an 18-minute walk to one of the city's most stunning free attractions, the Brooklyn Heights Promenade. This pedestrian walkway sits on a bluff overlooking the East River, offering sweeping views of lower Manhattan skyline. You'll see the Statue of Liberty in the distance, the Freedom Tower standing tall, and ferries zipping back and forth. It's the perfect location to take some photos of New York from a different angle. From the promenade, cross the Squibb Park Bridge into Brooklyn Park. This riverside green has been transformed from old shipping piers into green lawns, playgrounds, and waterfront walkways. Stroll along Pier 1 and Pier 2, stopping to admire the views or simply sit back and relax in one of the many benches that this area has to offer while watching the busy city of New York pass you by. Now for our first evening meal of the trip, we're going to head back up the river for about 15 minutes to the Dumbo area and dive into Giuliana's Pizza. New York is synonymous with pizza, and tonight you're going to taste one of the city's best. Now founded by the same family that founded the famous Grimaldi's, Giuliana uses a coal-fired oven that gives the crust a smoky flavor and blistered edges. The space feels cozy and retro, with white-tiled walls and red leather booths. Order a classic margarita pie, which is loaded with tomato sauce, mozzarella, basil, and that perfect charred crust. This is enough to share between 2 people, and you'll leave full without overspending. A medium pie will cost you between $15 to $18. Now after this, it's time for one of New York's most magical free experiences, the Staten Island Ferry. Head back into Manhattan on the subway and make your way to the South Ferry Terminal. The ferry is completely free and runs 24/7. As you ride across the harbor, you're going to pass directly by the Statue of Liberty, glowing at night. Behind you, the Manhattan skyline. It all is lit up like a sea of glass. And then, to get back where you first boarded, just disembark and reboard the next ferry back to Manhattan. It's the perfect way to end your first day in New York. And the fact is, barely anything's free in New York. I mean, come on, this is totally worth it. Day 1 is going to see us spend a total of $40 on food and a total of $0 on attractions. Depending on what accommodation you chose will depend on how much you've spent for the day's total, but don't worry, we'll be covering all of that later in the video. And transport, well, it's covered by your 7-day Metro Pass. Now, before we jump into the best tips and tricks on how to travel around New York City, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can learn how to travel around more cities from around the world on a budget. Now, the best way to explore New York on a budget is the 7-day unlimited Metro card, which costs $34. It covers all subway and bus rides, and since a single ride is $2.90, the card pays for itself after just 12 trips. The subways here run 24/7, but throughout the night, trains are less frequent, and be sure to only use subways that are well lit at night. Buses are great for above-ground views and can often get to places that subways can't. And ferries, well, they're not included with your Metro card, and please be sure to stay away from taxis and Ubers, as these can get very expensive. And of course, like always, the best way to explore the city, it's just by walking and taking in the views along the way. Now, let's get to day 2. Day 2 sees us starting with a true New York legend, Essa Bagel. Now, since 1976, this shop has been serving the city's fattest, chewiest bagels. When you walk inside, the smell of fresh dough hits you instantly. To get here, take the subway to 51st Street, Lexington Avenue. The line inside is often long, but it moves quickly, and the counter staff are famously fast-paced. For the full experience, get a bagel with lox and cream cheese. It's a New York classic, silky smoked salmon layered over rich cream cheese on a hand-rolled bagel. Breakfast here should run you about $12. After breakfast, walk a few blocks north to the entrance of Central Park on 59th Street. This is one of the world's most famous urban parks, stretching over 800 miles in the middle of Manhattan. It's completely free, and it feels like stepping into another world. Enter through Columbus Circle and follow the wide paths into the park. Walk down the Mall, which is a long tree-lined promenade often filled with artists and musicians. This path leads straight to the Bethesda Terrace and Fountain, one of the most cinematic locations in all of the park. The arched underpass here has some of the best acoustics in New York, and you'll often hear violinists or opera singers performing. There's so much to do and see in this famous park, so be sure to take some time to explore all that it has to offer. Bow Bridge is one of the park's most romantic spots, and this is the perfect spot to take some photos of the city skyline. Now, for lunch on our second afternoon, we're heading off to one of New York's most famous street food experiences, the Halal Guys, who are located on 53rd and 6th Avenue. Now, what started as a humble food cart serving taxi drivers, well, now it's turned into one of the most famous food carts in all of NYC. Order their chicken over rice platter, which comes piled high with spiced chicken, yellow rice, salad, pita, and their legendary white sauce. A drizzle of hot sauce adds serious kick, so be careful, it's fiery. And again, prices are about $12 for a meal with a drink. Now, for our afternoon attraction, it's only located a short walk away from Midtown. You'll be greeted with 2 iconic buildings that cost nothing to explore. First, we're going to head to the Grand Central Terminal. Step into the main concourse, tilt your head back, and you'll see the celestial ceiling painted with constellations. This is a true work of art inside and is another great location to take some pictures. Now, next, we're going to walk west to the New York Public Library on 5th Avenue. The grand entrance, flanked by marble lions, leads into one of the city's most beautiful interiors. The Rose main reading room is vast, with chandeliers hanging above long wooden tables. It feels like you're stepping into like a cathedral of knowledge. Now it's time for our one-page splurge of the trip, and that's a view from the Skyline deck at the top of the Rockefeller Center. This gives you the best view of the Empire State Building with some of the very best views of the entire city. Trust me, it is well worth the trip to the top. Arrive about 45 minutes before sunset, and as you ride the elevator up, the glass ceiling reveals the shaft above. When you step onto the observation deck, the city spreads out below you, Central Park glowing green to the north, the Empire State Building rising in front of you, and the Hudson River reflecting the sunset. Stay through golden hour into blue hour, when the lights of Manhattan flicker on. It's one of the most breathtaking views in the world. Tickets are a bit pricey, coming in at $57, but this isn't an attraction that can be missed when planning some big trip like this to New York. A link's going to be left in the description below for you to purchase your tickets, as booking online will get you to skip the lines. After your skyline view, head to Los Tacos No. 1, which is located down in Times Square, a taco stand that constantly tops New York's best taco lists. The vibe is simple. There's no tables, just counters and standing space. But the tacos are phenomenal. Juicy pork shaved off a rotating spit, served on fresh corn tortillas with pineapple, onions, and cilantro. The meals here are quick, tasty, and exactly what you need after a busy day of exploring. You can get 3 tacos for $12. And after, well, you're right next to Times Square, so be sure to take a quick look around. Stand in the middle of the neon chaos and admire one of the most famous spots on the planet. Our budget breakdown for day 2 sees us spend $36 on food, $57 on attractions. All the transport was covered by our Metro card, and this brings our total spend of the trip so far to $167. But this doesn't include any of our accommodation fees yet. Now let's talk about how to get into Manhattan. The JFK International Airport is the main airport that serves NYC. Located only 15 minutes from Midtown, travel time is about 60 to 75 minutes, depending on whereabout your accommodation is. The most budget-friendly option to get to Manhattan is by taking the air train to Jamaica Station, which will cost you $8.50, and then transfer onto the subway via the E train into Manhattan, with the fare of this costing $2.90, which brings your total to $11.40. Day 3. Now, Day 3 starts off like the previous two, with a bagel from Zucker's Bagels, and more specifically, the one located in Tribeca. Now, as you walk in, you're going to be greeted by the smell of fresh bagels being pulled from the ovens. Order one of the classics, which consists of a lox bagel filled with cream cheese, tomato, onion, and capers. It's salty, creamy, crunchy, and chewy all at once. This is the perfect morning bite that represents New York's immigrant roots. Pair it with coffee for about $10, and then you're set for the day. From Tribeca, it's only an 8-minute walk south to the 9/11 Memorial. This is one of the most moving free sites in New York. The two reflecting pools are vast, each almost being an acre in size, with waterfalls cascading down each of their sides. The sound of rushing water creates a hushed, contemplative atmosphere, despite the busy city just beyond the plaza. Around the pools, the names of every victim are inscribed in bronze. People often leave roses or small flags in the engraved letters. Take time in this area to learn about the tragic events that unfolded on that truly horrific day. I remember I was just a kid. My father, who is a pilot, was actually in New Jersey. And I remember I didn't quite understand, but wow, 9/11, never forget. Now, after you've reflected and paid your respects, it's time to step into the Oculus, which is a futuristic transportation hub designed by Santiago Calatrava. Its white ribs soar like the wings of a bird taking flight. Inside, the rib ceiling forms symmetrical lines that stretch toward the sky. For many, it feels like a symbol of rebirth and hope after tragedy. From here, it's only a short 7-minute walk to Fulton Street Station. And here we're going to hop onto the subway to Bowery. This will leave us only a few blocks away from Vanessa's Dumpling House. Located in the Chinatown district, you can try their famous pan-fried pork dumplings for only $5. With places like this, it's best to bring cash, as most don't accept card payments. Now, after lunch, wander west into Soho. The name comes from south of Houston Street, and the area is famous for its 19th century cast iron buildings. As you stroll around the streets, the facades are decorated with elegant columns and fire escapes zigzagging down the fronts. It really gives it a unique feel toward the place. But today, Soho is a mix of high-end boutiques and art galleries. But its architecture remains its true charm. Now, continue north into Little Italy, where a century ago, this was the heart of New York's Italian immigrant community. Today, the neighborhood has shrunk, but Mulberry Street still flies the red, white, and green of Italy. Cafes spill onto sidewalks, accordion music sometimes play in the background, and murals of Italian icons decorate the walls. There are plenty of cafes along the streets for you to sit back and enjoy a nice freshly brewed coffee. This area of New York is layered in immigrant history and gives you some insight into Italian, Irish, and Chinese culture. As the sun begins to set, head west to Greenwich Village. This neighborhood is New York's bohemian soul, once the home of beat poets and folk musicians. And still today, it feels much more laid back than Midtown, with tree-lined streets, brownstones, and jazz music spilling from basement clubs. For a quick evening meal, stop at Mamoun's Falafel. This is a no-frills Middle Eastern spot that's been a village institution since 1971. Get a falafel sandwich filled with crunchy chickpea fritters, lettuce, tomato, tahini sauce, all stuffed into a warm pita bread. Or try a shawarma platter if you're hungry. Those are super filling. A meal here should cost you around $12, and seating inside can be a bit limited. So if it's a dry day, then find somewhere outside to sit back, tuck in, and watch the busy city wind down for the night. Now, from Greenwich Village, it's just a short walk to the Hudson River Park. This riverside stretch has piers that jut out over the water, creating perfect viewing spots for the sunset. Head to Pier 45, where locals gather in the evening with picnics, guitars, or just to sit peacefully, watching the sun sink into the horizon. The skyline of Jersey City glows to the west, while Manhattan's towers light up behind you. It's a peaceful and cinematic way to close out the day, and is a moment of calm in the city that never sleeps. Day 3 sees us spend a total of $27 on food, and just like Day 1, 0 on attractions, bringing the total spend just to $194. For 3 days of eating and sightseeing in the Big Apple, that's pretty cheap. But before we head to our 4th and final day, we're going to see what options we have for accommodations. Now, the best area of the city to stay in when traveling on a strict budget is Long Island City, which is also known as Queens. It's only one subway stop from Midtown Manhattan, and rooms are quite cheap here, meaning you're going to save hundreds compared to staying in Times Square. Now, depending on whether you want your own room or not will determine your overall spending. A shared hostel or using platforms like Airbnb, they're great ways to ensure that you stick to the under $500 budget. Room prices for these options come in at around $55 a night, and with us only staying here for 3 nights, the total spend will be roughly $165. Now, though, if you're like me and prefer a little peace and quiet plus your own space, then there are plenty of budget hotel chains and motels in Long Island. Now, prices here are, of course, more expensive, but a private double room will cost around $100, making the total spend on accommodation roughly $300. This may see us go over our $500 budget, but if you want privacy and comfort, then your trip could be totally doable for maybe under $600. The months between January and March are by far the best times to visit on a budget. Flights and accommodations are at the cheapest during these months, and crowds can be much smaller. Be sure to wrap up warm, though, as it can be very cold and often snowy during this time of the year. Now, for our fourth and final morning, we're going to start it off like a true local. Now, New Yorkers don't always sit down for breakfast. Many just grab something on their way to work. So start your morning at a local deli or bodega. The one closest to Hudson Yards will mean that you are right into the action from the start. Inside, you'll find shelves stacked with snacks, cold drinks, and usually a grill in the back making hot sandwiches. Order a bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll, which is the unofficial breakfast sandwich of New York. This is perfect as it's cheap, quick, and comforting. Add a coffee, and you're all set. You should be able to pick up both for about $8. Next, we're going to head to the High Line, which is only a short walk down 10th Avenue. This is one of New York's most unique parks. Once an abandoned elevated freight railway, it's now a 1.5-mile-long linear park which stretches from Hudson Yards down through Chelsea. As you walk along, you'll see wildflowers, art installations, and stunning views of the city streets below. Old railway tracks run through the landscaping, a reminder of its industrial past. The perspective is quite special. You're above the street looking down on the city as it moves around you. This is a really cool spot and another great place to take some photos of New York from this unique perspective. Now, as the High Line drops you into Chelsea, this is a perfect location to grab some lunch. Let's go to the Chelsea Market, which is a converted Nabisco factory that once produced Oreo cookies. Today, it's one of New York's most famous food halls. Inside, brick walls are lined with dozens of vendors offering everything from tacos to ramen. For budget travelers, choose something simple but iconic, like the Los Tacos #1. Or, since we had this the other day, maybe just grab a bowl of fresh noodles from one of the Asian vendors. It's best to arrive here early to avoid the busy lunch rush, as seating here is communal. A meal and a drink will be about $15 inside. Now, from Chelsea, take the subway across town to 59th Street and 2nd Avenue, where you're going to find one of New York's best hidden gems, the Roosevelt Island Tramway. Swipe your Metro card, which is covered by your 7-day pass, and step onto the red aerial tram car. This tram glides over the East River, offering sweeping views of the Queensboro Bridge and Midtown Towers. It feels like an amusement park ride, but it's just part of the regular transit system. Once you reach Roosevelt Island, walk south to Four Freedoms Park, a peaceful memorial at the island's tip. Now here, you're going to find some of the best under-the-radar skyline views in all of the city, and the perfect location to relax and reflect on your unforgettable 4-day trip. Now, when you step off the Roosevelt Island tram back to Manhattan, you're only going to be a short walk from one of New York's most beloved old-school pizzerias, Patsy's. Founded in 1933 in Harlem, Patsy's has expanded to a handful of locations, but the recipe hasn't changed. They still serve thin, coal oven-baked pies with slightly charred crust and rich, tangy tomato sauce. The Upper East Side branch feels neighborhoody, with less tourists than the spots in Midtown. The interior inside is warm and inviting, with red and white checkered tablecloths and framed black and white photos of celebrities who have eaten there over the decades. It's got that classic New York Italian-American atmosphere without inflated prices. Grab either a slice for $4 or a medium pie for $15. And unfortunately, from here it's time to go back to the airport, as that's going to bring our trip to an end. But before we go, it's time to work out exactly how much money we've spent across the 4 days. Accommodations see us spend a total of $165, with only one paid attraction coming in at $57. Transport is about $56.40, and money spent on food coming in at about $141, which brings our total to $419.40. Throw in some extra spend here and there for tips, snacks, and drinks, and that's it. You're under your $500 budget. We did it. And again, if you wanted to upgrade your accommodation to a private room, then yeah, the total spend would be about $550. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this style of video, then click the one on screen now on how to visit more cities from around the world for under $500.